He had the blackest eyes.
The devil's eyes.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the second official episode of Movie Brawl. So it has been a little while. This was a show idea that I had months ago. Things got crazy, but it's spooky season. People want to talk Halloween. And if we're talking Halloween, I could only do it with one man. Dave McRae, welcome to Movie Brawl, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leach. It is wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me on. Shout out and hello to all your incredible subscribers. There's a lot of them. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. So what we're going to be talking about today, guys, is we're going to be discussing two of the Halloween sequels that are very similar, but very different. We're going to talk about Halloween H20 and Halloween 2018. And we're going to discuss the differences in story, Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, the kills, and the ending, and tally our scores up and see which one wins the movie brawl. So we'll kick off round one talking about the story, which is honestly the biggest similarity with these two films in a lot of ways. So H20, 20 years later, it's in the title, which, by the way, do you call it H20 or H20? Do you know there's people out there that try to like, it's called H20. Like, can we stop this? And I'm like, I've never heard somebody say that.
Yeah, I have heard. No, I call it Halloween H20. I think most people do.
Yeah.
The Halloween people that
water.
So I'm going to call it H20.
Yeah, exactly. Are we ready to admit that's the real title?
Excuse me, I have to take a plane back to Harvard now.
No, it's Halloween H20. Yeah.
There you go. So 20 years later, you've got Laurie, who is the headmistress of this college in California. She's got a new name. She's got a son. She has, basically erased her past, but yet her past chases her every single night when she goes to sleep. She is, both of these films explore trauma in similar ways. Right. And so you have her where she's kind of turned to alcoholism. They don't really like ramp that up, but it's very clear. Yeah. She's borderline kind of abusive to her kid mentally because she just smothers and won't let him live life at all for understandable reasons as a parent, but still. And then Michael manages to find the nurse from the first film to get just enough info to know where to find Laurie, and meets up with her 20 years later. And we have our first final showdown between these two characters.
Or our second, because Halloween 2 would have been the first final.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I stand corrected.
From a certain perspective, yeah.
Very much. And so this, what I've always liked about this story is the way that they portray the trauma of Laurie Strode, which we'll dive a lot more into when we talk about Laurie specifically. But with her, specifically with her son, is what I like, the flavor we get in this movie that we don't get in the others, where she's kind of, as a parent, there's always this fear about you kind of like dumping things into your kids, whether it be trauma, bad habits, whatever.
Right. Because all the shit that's going on in your head is leaking out on me, and I can't take it anymore. You told me yourself you watched him burn.
And the day that you actually see some of that like come out in your kid, like you see him give an attitude or something, and you're like, shit, they got that from me. My bad. It's something that I resonate a lot with. And so... Right. I really appreciate that side of it. I think that it's cool for novelty's sake, which I know you're not a fan of, to have this somewhere else other than Haddonfield. I get that it doesn't have the classic vibe, but I like the fact that we kind of take the story somewhere else. We show that Myers is willing to literally track her across the earth if it takes it to that. And ultimately just her kind of facing it, being afraid of him, being terrified and paralyzed with this fear, and then just having to face it in the final act of the film is what I really like about this one. So I don't know what your thoughts are specifically with the story of Halloween H20. But I
think the story is it's a traditional one. Mm-hmm. I think with this kind of thing, that's why you see the parallels in Halloween 18 as well. Mm-hmm. And there's parallels, even in my own film in terms of the generational trauma, and things like that between, the generations and stuff. So it's a very common theme. It's a very relatable theme for a lot of people, which is why it's often used. So I do like that aspect of it. I that's never like, when I think of Halloween H20, I'm never like, oh God, the story's a piece of crap. I mean, I don't have any issues. I mean, there's some I have some questions about where the hell has he been and why isn't he burned and how can he see
how does he have eyes?
and what's going on. I have some, they are asking me to take some somewhat big suspension of disbeliefs in certain areas, but Laurie being the alcoholic, I think, is a good one. I think it shows that she's been dealing with this for a long time, and I think it works better in Halloween H20. Actually, some people who watch me on my own channel are going to be like, "He's complimenting Halloween H20." I think it works better because Halloween 2, despite the fact that how can he see and where are the burns and what's going on and where the hell has he been, is canon. Mm-hmm. And so when you think of both the original Halloween, the events of that movie, and the events of Halloween 2, and you think of all the extra shit that she went through in Halloween 2, which would only add and compound to that potential trauma and PTSD that she has later on in life, it makes it more believable then that she would be in that kind of a position. Mm-hmm. So, and there's that scene, of course, in the little cafe where she's sucking back the wine and she's doing this, and can I have another one, please? And I mean, it's like, holy shit, lady, like what's going on? Mm-hmm. And I agree that if that kind of thing would affect your children, and it clearly does, and Josh Hartnett does a great job. Mm-hmm. And the dynamic between the two, I think is great. I think when it comes to the setting, I'll just say this. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the setting. I do agree that I think it's properly motivated and it makes sense to set it elsewhere because she is in a witness protection thing or whatever, and she would have ran away, and she's not going to be in Haddonfield. But either for me, because the atmosphere and the setting in that Midwest is so classic and it's almost a character in and of itself, I think I would have started it somewhere else and then written it in a way, the story in a way, there was a reason why she had to come back. Either that's back to Haddonfield or back to the Midwest, back to another, maybe it's not Haddonfield, maybe it's Indiana, maybe it's up here in Toronto, maybe it's, I mean, who knows, like somewhere where you can have that fall atmosphere. That
suburban atmosphere.
Yeah, there is a reason. It's properly motivated. You watching the movie, you don't think, oh, come on. No, it's totally properly motivated. There's a reason why she has to go wherever she needs to go, mm-hmm. and something happens there, whatever the case is. What is that thread that allows her to go back? I don't know. I'd have to think about it more. But yeah, I did have trouble getting into the warmer, more tungsten vibe of the film for me. Mm-hmm. But the story of her and where she is makes sense, especially when you consider that Halloween 2 is canon.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you with having that second movie in canon. It makes the trauma side of it much more palatable. Yeah. And what you brought up was actually going to be in my negative side for the story is like the suspension of disbelief of the ending of 2 bringing us to now with how much he goes through. And I honestly, we'll talk about this more in the next round. I think the big thing that could have saved that a lot is the way that they shot Michael. Like this is the movie where his eyes are always present. And you're like, what the fuck? Those were shot. But if it was shadowed like Michael is in the proper movies, we could probably suspend that a bit more. Like, oh, he's the boogeyman, doesn't matter. Yeah,
but yeah, I agree. I mean, there's that shot of Chris Durant who plays Myers in H20, and I have nothing against the man mm-hmm. himself. I'm sure he's a lovely man, but I'm not a huge fan of his portrayal. But it could also mm-hmm. be because of, to your point, mm-hmm. the way that he shot, and of course you have him walking down the hallway. It's a low angle shot. That's great because you want to give your antagonist power. Mm-hmm. But he's walking and his hair looks like he just stuck his finger in some sort of socket, and the eye holes on the mask are like this, and you can see him just his eyes clear as day. He's just walking, and I'm just like, there's no. It's uniform lighting. There's no. I don't feel any atmosphere, mood, and atmosphere. I don't feel it. You know what I mean in that particular mm-hmm. shot, and so I think you're right. I think maybe if they had just not shown his eyes and kept, sort of him in shadow more and all that kind of stuff, then it probably, I mean, there might be some fans who are like, well, how's he walking around? How can you see? But I think not seeing his eyes, that would have disappeared. I think you're absolutely right. I think that is part of the problem is we see his eyes, and we see his eyes a lot.
Yeah, we do. That's that's kind of the stain of H2O, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So moving on to Halloween 2018, very similar approach. It's, Halloween has kind of been stagnant for a while. And then very similar in the announcement too. It's like Jamie Lee's coming back. And
I remember it, man.
Oh yeah, I remember. We're gonna. They announced David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, and then I think maybe within a week they announced that Jamie Lee Curtis was coming back. And I remember just being on YouTube like, thank God I have something that I can talk about that's going to get shitloads of views.
Oh yes,
that was my motivation at the time. But we have
same. I mean, I think I had like 900 subs at that time, and I did this video, and I did the thing on Jamie Lee Curtis. It got like 5,000 views, and I'm like, oh my God! Yeah. And I went from like 900 subs to like 1,400 or something. I'm like, oh my God! Yeah. Oh my God! Oh my God! And we were off to the races. That was it. Yep.
Absolutely. So Halloween 2018 takes it from 20 years later to 40 years later, and it makes only the first film canon.
It does.
Deletes all of the sequels, and it also removes the sibling angle, which I was initially very excited about whenever they said that in kind of the building up the hype with the press releases and stuff, because I've never been crazy about the sibling angle, and even more to the point, I think that it was played out. Even the bits of it that I did like, it was like, okay, the family motivation bores me. We need something else. Right. So I actually really liked the approach in theory of let's just make him a guy. And she's just somebody that was in his warpath that there's no reason that he was going for. It's just, that's the fucking way it is. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And I was excited about that. So you get Laurie, who is, talk about trauma. She's even more dialed up in this one. She's basically been training Sarah Connor style ever since that night, bunkered away, still kind of exploring the dumping your trauma into your kids. But it's like we catch up after that's already happened, and she's already kind of burned bridges, and she's onto the granddaughter now. And so
I love Karen's. I love her. Mom, the world is a wonderful, lovely place with good, or whatever she says. I'm just like,
love and happiness. Yeah.
I'm just like, get out of here.
Yeah. Thank God dialogue is not one of the rounds. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Peanut butter in my penis.
Oh, yeah.
But
there we go.
Yeah. But so Michael busts out of this bus, because they're going to be transferring him for reasons that I don't remember. Maybe they didn't even give reasons. He's always transferred for some reason, and breaks out of the bus
on Halloween.
Yeah, on Halloween, exactly. It's like, can you guys think of another fucking time to do this?
Or the night before Halloween or whatever.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
And so then you have Michael finally returning to Haddonfield, gets reunited with his mask. There's a big thing about the mask and the thematic element there and the ties.
Oh,
and you have Dr. Sartain in there that believes there's some kind of like a cosmic bond between him and Laurie and that night. And it's a movie that really tries to like create like a mythology out of the first film, which is a very different approach to a very similar story.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think I was a big fan of actually them removing Halloween 2. I mean, let me just say this. Halloween 2 from 1981 is still my favorite Halloween sequel to this day.
It's one of mine.
I still think it feels most like the original. And although it is obviously a bit more gory and you even see Michael's eyes in a couple of shots, I think it's most like the original for a couple of reasons. One, it's only 3 years removed from 1978. So the film stock is probably the same film stock. The technology is still the same. They're still shooting on film. And so there's a production value quality that is very similar to the 1978, original. So it does feel like it's the same film. Halloween 4 is another sequel I quite like, and that's usually where it stops. But but I will say that I did like the fact that they were going to remove Halloween 2 from the equation because it's something that had never been done, and they were finally going to make a movie where there was no brother-sister angle. And that's interesting to me because he was not her brother in the first film. No matter how many times we try to fit a square peg into a round hole, in retrospect, looking back, when that movie was made in 1978, there's nothing in that movie that is a hint or an Easter egg or an inkling to them being related, because that wasn't the story then.
Yeah.
So I was excited about this. I thought that was actually the right move. However, making Laurie as deeply
Damaged.
damaged, yeah, you know, with so much guilt and so much shame and so much fear and so much PTSD over all those years. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, what one goes through, what is real to them, what they suffer, their fear, their PTSD, their guilt, their shame. It doesn't matter if it's one person, 3 people, or 300 people. You can experience that. It can be real for you, and you can take that forever, you know, whatever the case is. I mean, I'm not here going to say that, you know, shut up and get over it. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. But is it probable? And so I have trouble in the sense of believing that she would be this way 40 years later. Maybe she was that way 4 years later. Maybe she was that way a few years later. And I just have trouble believing that she would still be like that 40 years later, where it's ruined her marriages, her kids, you know, relationship with her kids. And that doesn't mean she can't be, you know, a little on edge, or she can't be, you know, but it was difficult. You know, we did it, but it was difficult to buy into. Now, I know we're not talking Halloween Ends here, but I do want to say that having seen Halloween Ends and where Laurie is at the beginning of that movie almost makes me feel like that's where she should have been at the beginning of 18.
I agree.
And then at the end of Halloween Ends is where she should have been at the beginning of 18. And so where she is at the beginning of 18 is where she should have been at the end of Halloween Ends. And where she is at the beginning of Halloween Ends is where she should be at the beginning of Halloween 18. Hopefully that made sense to your subscribers. And so that's sort of what, now that, again, in retrospect, I'm kind of like, yeah, like she's, you know, she's moved on with her life, and it's always been a part of her. You know, it's always something that she thinks about. And every time Halloween comes around, it's, you know, you know, she takes it easy. You know, but a little more introspective, a little more subdued, a little more just sort of not so deep into the PTSD like it just happened. It was a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I really liked kind of the mythical edge they threw in there, where you like even the shot of Michael like finding the mask, and like there's something there. There's some tie. Right. I like all that. Like it kind of feeds into that little bit of a supernatural edge that he always was meant to have.
Right.
And I like the coming back to Haddonfield, and, you know, like, fuck it, I don't know how long I'm going to be out, so might as well have some fun tonight. And it's the Laurie side of it, as well as a lot of the side characters, but it's the Laurie side of it where I feel like the movie really loses me, where it just dives too much into trauma to where it feels like it's overdoing it to try to make a point. You know, if the daughter and the granddaughter and all the men are like totally dispensable, and like she made no, you know, secret whatsoever that they were going for like this feminist edge, and it's very prevalent in the story. Right. And they do a decent enough job with it, but, you know, they just, even the Sartain thing, like that's always something. Like when I first saw it, that was the biggest what the fuck element of that movie, where I'm just like, I don't know what you were going for here.
What the fuck is that?
I'm surprised I didn't shit my pants in the theater when I saw that. I mean, I was sitting there and I'm thinking, what the hell is it's like a commercial break. It's like when things are getting, it's like you're really into a movie and all of a sudden there's a YouTube ad.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with YouTube ads, folks. We run them on our channels, but I just mean, like, you know, you're watching a movie, right? Or maybe it's back in the day when you're watching TV, and it's like, and something's about to happen, and they cut to a break. It's like, by Manon, and then now and you're like, what's going on? I want to get back to that. Is really what the Sartain thing felt to me, and not that it wasn't justified in the story. I mean, it is hinted that he's obsessed with Michael and about this kind of thing or whatever, but it didn't feel organic. It felt like we were stopping the momentum to to do this and then get back to your regularly scheduled program. And I know we're not talking about Kills, but the same thing happened in Kills, where you're running along and then all of a sudden we're stopping the momentum. We got to shoehorn in this social commentary about mob mentality in the hospital and the people who think that Danny DeVito is Michael Myers. And we got to run through this for 15 minutes and then we'll get back to your regularly scheduled it doesn't feel like it's and then Halloween Ends is a whole other thing. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel woven into the story. Like it's part of it. It feels like the movie just comes to a stop and then we go over here and then we get back to the movie. And it's like, okay, well, I guess, if you want to do that, let's do it. And so, I felt the same way about the Sartain thing. It was just weird and strange.
Yeah, it just felt like they were trying to find a solution to the decision of not making them siblings anymore. Well, why is Michael going to be where she is in the third act? And it was like the most, like you said earlier, shoving a square peg into a round hole, trying to get from A to C without having to go through B, where it could have been really interesting to just have that element be something here. And by the end of the film, it kind of felt like it was a lateral move. Where it's like, okay, they're not siblings, but if you didn't say that, the movie would be exactly the same because it doesn't really matter. They're still shoved together by the end of it for reasons.
Yeah, and I agree. And you didn't need again, I mean, if you want to have, I like Sartain. I like him as a character. I like the gravitas. I like that he worked under Loomis. I like that he knows Myers. He's the Loomis-ish type of character. That's fine. It's great. That's all great. I like his motivation in terms of he's obsessed. He wants to see Laurie and Michael. But you don't have to have him be the catalyst to make that happen because all you had to do was when Allison was, I know that, it would take a bit of rewriting, but have Allison running from Michael like she was doing, when she's in the actually, hang on, I'm thinking about the movie again. It's been a while. No, Allison was in the cop car. That's right. She was in the cop car with Michael and Sartain. And then when the whole shit goes down, Allison runs where? She runs into the woods, right? Yeah. And so that's just it. I mean, you don't need, just have Michael follow Allison through the woods, you know what I mean? And then she winds up at grandma's house and she's bringing the big bad wolf with her. I mean, that's all you need to do. And so it's just, that's what he doesn't know he's going there. He doesn't know where Laurie is or who Laurie is or whatever the case is. He's just like, hey, that chick ran away from me. I'm after that chick. Smashed his face and I'm going after her. And he just goes into the woods and follows Goldilocks to grandma's house. And that's it. I mean, you don't need, I have to watch the movie again to make sure I'm getting the details right. But I think I'm in the ballpark there. I think there's you don't necessarily need to have the movie come to a full stop in order to have the Sartain moment. Have Sartain drive halfway there, basically, is what I'm saying. You can have this scene happen later. We don't know the geography of the area. Allison could be running through the woods for 45 minutes if she had to. If you're running from a kill, you're going to run as far as you can and for as long as you can. So who's to say that she doesn't run from after seeing what's his face, impaled on the pole again, a bit of rewriting, but have her run and there's a great chase sequence and that music can continue and it doesn't come to a stop and she's ducking behind, laundry sheets and in alleyways and stuff. And then she makes it to the edge of these woods and she runs through the woods and Michael just continues and he just follows her to grandma's house, and so
you could have Will Patton try to help her. Michael attacks him and he gets stabbed the same way. She gets to grandma's house. Will Patton shows up, or she thinks Will Patton shows up in the sheriff's vehicle, and Michael steps out of it.
Exactly. For sure you could. For sure you could. And so, and he's not any the wiser. He has no idea where he is. He's just after this, cute chick that's ran away from him.
Yeah, exactly. So, nobody gets away.
No, that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, they both have their strengths. I think that there's elements to keeping more of the supernatural edge to the original that I prefer in 2018. I like having the mother and the granddaughter element in there. Some of the side characters I like Will Patton's character. A lot of the high school kids
love Will Patton's character.
Yes. But with H20, same thing. I like more the simplicity of that movie. It doesn't feel like it's overreaching.
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, my point for this round, I'm giving it to H20.
Well, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say that now we're talking about Story, I guess
Story.
we're talking about. We're talking about
Mhm.
story. Okay. All right. Maybe I should. Well, I was just going to say that yeah, that's a tough one. Story. It's
That's
tough.
what I like about it. It's close. It's close.
It's close. It's close because there are things I think story. Yeah, because there's part of the because I do think there are a lot of things that 18 does much better than
Yes.
H2O, and we talk about Myers, talk about the soundtrack, talk about all sorts of mask, all sorts of stuff. So, but in terms of story, I'm going to say, I think I'm going to give it to 18.
Okay.
Only because I have trouble buying into where has Myers been? Why isn't he burned? Why can I see his eyes? At least there's justification here of where he's been. He's been incarcerated for 40 years. They go to detail to show you that eye is still fucked up from, the coat hanger. And I think so the motivation, I know that's not the whole story, but the motivation for where Myers has been and, and what's going on and all that kind of stuff, I think works better for me. But I do concede that that the justification, the motivation for her trauma in H2O is more properly motivated than it is in 18. But I think I'm just going to give the edge to 18 just because I think they handled the Myers aspect of the story better.
Gotcha. And I don't disagree with that motivation either. So I love it. Moving on to round 2, we're going to talk about the man himself, Michael Myers. And this might be the most landslide victory of any of these rounds. Let's just be honest here. So we have H2O. We got Chris Durand, who is not many people's favorite Myers, and a lot of people's least favorite Myers. He's certainly always mentioned in a negative way. I personally don't dislike his performance anywhere near on that level, but I get he's one of the more bland Myers. Maybe that's the most respectful way to put it. There's no edge to his performance. It's very much trying to kind of capture the Nick Castle thing, and we can debate whether or not he really captures it well. But the biggest thing that really handicaps his performance is the mask and the way that they shoot him and the way that they light him.
Masks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this movie it's infamous for the mask debacle. So you have, I think, 2 shots in the opening of the movie where they have the Halloween 6 mask, which of the ones that we get was like the one. It's like, why didn't you just keep that mask? What was the problem?
And I'm not a huge fan of that, but for whatever reason, the 6 mask looks great in that opening.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks great. It's shadowed right. You don't see his eyes. Like when the few shots you get where he's behind the nurse, it's like, that's him. That's Michael. What was the problem?
And maybe it's just because it looked better on Durand than Wilbur. Yeah, perhaps. I mean, maybe it was a face shape thing or something. I don't know. But you're right. When we that low angle shot, front door, it's open. Durand steps out. I'm like, oh. Yeah, that looks good, but again, look at the lighting, look at the shadows. It really helps.
It does. It makes all the difference in the world. So you have that one. You had the KNB mask, which has a very alien look to it, where the eyes are oblong and kind of ovaled, and it's very strange. Still shadowed, still don't see the eyes. So I don't know why they changed directions with that. You have the is it Stan Winston mask?
Stan Winston.
Yeah, Stan Winston mask, which is the one that is in most of the movie, and it's on the cover, and it's the one with the the Marv and Halloween or Home Alone 2 hair. And then we have a CGI mask in one shot, which is just unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable.
Which to this day, I don't, again, I haven't seen the movie in a little bit, so I'd have to go back and watch to see if this was possible. But if it was me, I know it's 1998, but folks, I was there in the theater. I was 19. It looked like shit in 1998.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what, if that was me and I was in the editing room and I was the director and I looked at that, I'd say, let's just remove that shot. Yeah. Let's just have the over the shoulder shot where we see the reflection in the guy's eye.
Yeah.
I said, but let's not cut to Myers. Let's just cut there and move on because this is not good enough.
Yeah.
so let's just not use it. Yeah. Let's just not use it. I don't understand why they used it anyway. I mean, I don't get it.
It's baffling. I mean, it's very similar to the pink mask with the blonde hair and for a franchise with such an iconic yet simple mask. It is incredible how often they fucked it up over 40 years.
Oh yeah.
But
Amazing.
so yeah, that to me is the biggest thing that handicaps. Like Chris Durand, I think is a very suitable Myers. I don't think there's anything outstanding about him. I don't think there's anything that's super egregious about him. But
I think he's serviceable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that the mask and the way that they shoot him and the way that they light his eyes so prominently to where there's a spot where he gets kicked in the balls and he's like,
I know. He's like, ooh.
Yeah. And it's just you can't get past that. So I get why people hate it so much.
Yeah. And all the eye stuff, I mean, would not be, again, if you're not asking us as an audience to buy into the fact that this is a direct sequel to Halloween 2, not 4, not 5, not 6, Halloween 2. Well, what happened at the end of Halloween 2? We know what happened. I know there's some people that try to allow themselves to sleep better at night and say, well, he didn't get shot in the eyes. He got shot under the eye, over the eye by the time. No, he got shot in the eye. Dick Warlock has said, I got shot in the eyes. That's why I was doing this.
Yeah.
But if you look carefully, you can see that, you can see the blood coming down, but you can kind of still see the eyes. I'm just like,
it's called special effects that are now on 4K Blu-ray.
That's exactly. It's called 1981, ladies and gentlemen, 1981. So he was shot in the eyes, and even if he wasn't, he burned to death. He was lying on the ground. He was an enraging inferno. It is, and shout out to Darren Sands of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast, because it's his favorite firewalk of all time, and it's right up there with mine as well. It is one of the most incredible firewalks of all time. He is engulfed in flames. It's an inferno. No man could survive. This isn't a man. Okay, I know, but I'm just saying that he was. And I just can't get, and now H2O is asking us to believe that not only they never found his body. I mean, that's your, justification. And they never found his body. Well, where has he been for 20 years? I mean, at least in the David Gordon Green trilogy, I guess he's hanging out in the sewers, I guess. But I mean, where has he been? Is he at Walmart being a Walmart greeter? I mean, is he walking around? Did he, I mean, he's got to eat. He's got to pee.
Yeah, gonna run out of dogs eventually.
He had terrific skin graft surgery. I mean, it's just, and I know it's a movie. I get it, but asking that of us as audience members is really difficult because I'm like, this doesn't, story-wise, canonically, maybe slasher movies are more forgiving that way, but this just doesn't. There's a lot of things Halloween fans just look past, and I don't know if Friday fans or Elm Street fans would. And it's a bit ironic because Halloween fans can be a bit Star Warsy fans, but I agree with you. I think Chris Durand's not my favorite Myers. I'm not crazy on his stance in some of the shots. His legs look a little too far apart. I want them a little more closer together.
That. Yeah.
But he's not the worst. He's not horrible. He's serviceable. Right body shape, frame, everything. But I don't think that Steve Miner, and I love Steve Miner, Friday the 13th 2 and 3. Come on. I think he did he do House, the first House? I think he did.
Yes.
I think he did. Love House, one of my favorites. But I just am not a fan of the way they handled Myers in H2O, how he was lit, how he was just out in the daytime or out, not in the daytime, but well, I mean, a little bit, but I wasn't crazy. I don't think it does justice to the character and to the mask. And unfortunately it's a big part. It's a huge part. And I think it just doesn't work for me. So,
yeah, no, totally agree. And then you contrast that with James Jude Courtney's take in Halloween 2018, which I don't know if this is a hot take. He's my favorite Michael portrayal. Most people say Nick Castle for understandable reasons. He's definitely a close second. Nothing but props to the OG. But you have James Jude Courtney, who for me, like, he has all of the intimidation factor. He has all of the presence. He has all of the sick amount of brute strength that they went for in the zombie films without having to make him 7 feet tall.
Right.
You know, he's got the Nick Castle frame, but you believe that this dude is like lifting firefighters and stuff like with his bare hands. And
that's it.
Even with him being an old man, there's just something about the way that a lot of the first act of the film, he's obscured in the background where he's killing people at the gas station. All you see is like just shadows of it. The ferocity of the kills, which we'll get into specificity with that in a little bit. And that mask, the mask from 2018 and the mask from Kills are among my favorites too. I think it's the best that mask has looked since the original, alongside Rob Zombie's mask. That's one of the things he did good, I think, was the mask look.
Right.
But yeah, the way that movie treated Myers, which was the idea of from the beginning, whenever David Gordon Green and Danny McBride sat down with Carpenter, is we want to go back to the original. Right. We want to go back to what you set out to do that we don't think anybody's really figured out how to replicate yet. And this is our way that we're going to try to do that. And I think that of all the things that 2018 does that doesn't work for me, Myers is the one thing that I think they knocked it out of the park.
They did. And whether you like Halloween Ends or not, James Jude Courtney in the little time that he had was terrific. And so I think James Jude Courtney is one of the shining stars in the David Gordon Green trilogy. It is the best Myers has looked and felt and been utilized from a directing standpoint since the earlier films. I mean, since Halloween 1 and 2. He is 6'3". Nick Castle's 5'10", so he's a bit larger than Nick. But because James really honed in and worked closely with Christopher Nelson, I believe, to hone in on those nuances and details of what Nick Castle did and sort of the walking and all that kind of stuff, which Nick was just being himself, in the original movie. Nick Castle is my favorite, by the way. Mm-hmm. But James Jude Courtney is, Dick Warlock maybe second just for nostalgia, but James is there. I mean, he's incredible. And what he was able to do, he made me believe that this was the same person, despite being 6 inches taller. No, 6 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches, whatever it is. I wasn't good at math, folks. Despite being taller,
the heights of these actors. The hell with math.
Well, I also know their birthdays and what they're doing right now.
Blood type.
Hang on 1 second. I got to open up I got a security cam in front of Nick's house here. Let's see. Hey, he's coming in. He's going in. Hi, Nick. No. Yeah, there's people out there. So he's taller, but as an audience member, I had no trouble believing that this was the same man 40 years later. Yeah. And that's a testament to those nuances and those details and those idiosyncrasies that James Jude Courtney, it's very subtle, right? The average fan may not, but it's just those little details that resonate so strongly with fans. And sometimes, it's like a painting or it's like a drawing, or it's like, you just shift this. That's it. That's it. You don't have to go like this and do this and do this and do that. Sometimes just a little bit of a shift over here, or a little bit of a, oh, that's it. It did it. It did it. And with James, I think that's what was happening. Just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's it. That's it. He's not trying too hard. He's not like, okay, I got it. No, he's just, okay, I got this. He just, okay, I'll just do that. And he brought his own, he brought his own to it as well, but he was great. And the mask is fantastic. The best mask we've had since Halloween 2, 1981, and which is the same mask, of course, in the original film, but just looks a bit different on Dick Warlock's face. But it's the best it's looked since that film, Halloween 2, 81. And and it looks great on him. And they did such a great job at obviously they took a bit of creative liberties. Would the mask still be around 40 years later? It would probably look a lot worse than what they made you think that it would. It was in better shape than it probably would have been in reality. But looking at that mask, I think to myself, I believe that's the same mask. They have done a great job at allowing me to suspend my disbelief and believe that is the same mask 40 years later. And I agree that it looks even better with the charred fire burns and soot and all that in Halloween Kills. It looks amazing in Halloween Kills. So James Jude Courtney and the masks in the David Gordon Green trilogy, although we're talking about 18 here, certainly in 18, the mask in 18, James Jude Courtney in 18, fantastic. The best Myers has looked and been utilized in low key lighting and split lighting is great. Now, I will say that, and this is just my Halloween purist nitpicking Dave McRae thing. I think they did a good job at playing a little fast and loose with you seeing a side of his face and then through the crack of the door, and in the gas station, a little bit of, I would have preferred if that scene was shot at night.
Yeah.
You might have had to rewrite a few scenes to make it plausible that Dana and Aaron show up at night rather than the afternoon. But I just think there would have been so much atmosphere and so much mood with Dana in this bathroom stall. Maybe there's one fluorescent light overhead. You know what I mean? It's flickering. It's dimly lit. In comes Aaron and Michael. And it's like, what the fuck's going on? And imagine that. And it gives you an opportunity for the light to go out, or it comes on and it goes out, it comes on and it goes out, and now you're like, what? I see a little bit. Oh no, it's blocking. Oh, now I see a little. I mean, it just the intensity of that scene, I think, would have been outstanding. And also when he gets the mask, and because the very last time, I mean, although there have been a lot of sequels, canonically, this is the first time we are seeing Myers in the mask since he fell off the balcony in 1978. I know that there's all these sequels, and we have that in our head, but in the story, this is the last time, or that was the last time. So I think at nighttime, same shot through the back of the windshield. Maybe there's a lamppost out there or something, with some split that allows some split lighting to fall onto James. And he takes it out of the trunk and he looks at it and he puts it over his head, and we're looking through the back of the windshield, and you just see half of the face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just kind of like, or maybe it's not quite half. You see a little bit of the other half, but it's really in shadow. Oh my, I mean, that would have just been like, there's the shape. Mm-hmm. Seeing it out in the brightly lit sun and the gas station didn't do much for me. It's a great shot. Love the idea. I just would have wished that, I just wish that whole scene would have taken place at night. I think it just would have been far more intense overall.
Gotcha. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that version for sure.
Yeah, but James in the mask, fantastic.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say we're both giving the point to 2018 for this round.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah. This is the one round where it's like, I don't even know if you could argue the other one. So we're going to move on to round 3 now, and we're going to be talking about Laurie Strode. And this is where it gets interesting because people get very passionate about both takes of this character. Now, we talked about this a bit in story, but you have H20 where, they're both going for the same thing, trauma. They're going for somebody who's broken, somebody who's literally like reliving that night every single day, can't escape it. One is 20 years past, one is 40 years past. One is, her dumping her trauma onto her teenage son. The other one is we've already fucked up the relationship with the 40-year-old daughter, and now we have an 18-year-old granddaughter that we're trying to have a relationship with.
That's it.
And, I think that there's interesting things that they tried to do in 2018 with her. I think that, going for the Sarah Connor thing, I love Sarah Connor. I love having, the badass final girl. There's something cool about having like a Laurie that is hardened and trained. We haven't seen that angle yet. I just wish they just dialed it back a bit. Like they had it like, up to 11. I would have liked to have seen it more around 8. Right. And, the dialogue too, in a lot of it, where you have Laurie, where she literally refers to Michael Myers as the Shape. And it's like, why would you call him that? We only knew that because that's what he was credited as in the end of the film in the credits. Yeah. So I saw the Shape, and it's like, why? That doesn't make sense for you to say that. There's moments like that all throughout the movie to me that just kind of like, it stretches the belief of me of this is Laurie versus this is a character that is being written in a legacy sequel.
Right.
And, the motivation of he's being transferred, so I'm going to sit outside and I'm going to do something about it, that kind of goes nowhere. I always contended that it would have been really interesting to have her go through with that, and she's the reason why he escaped.
Yes, totally. 100%. I agree.
Yeah. And so that was a weird missed opportunity to me. And I love everything in the third act. I think that it's cool to see her granddaughter and her daughter all kind of taking on Myers together. We'll talk more specifically about how the movie completely wraps up at the end, but there's elements to her character and what they were going for that I really like. But there's just as many spots where it's like, I don't know why you had to lay it on so thick. I don't know why you had to insert all this extra stuff, as if we're watching this as fans of the movies rather than watching these people that are 40 years later removed from the same story.
Right.
And I just don't have that baggage. I don't have those problems with H2O. I think that the way that they present that story with her is much more believable. I think it's much more interesting for me as a parent, the way that you're seeing the relationship with the child versus seeing what has happened years ago. And, you know, her just being overprotective and overbearing is something that's more realistic to me versus like, oh, I don't hang out with my mom anymore because she was literally training me to be a killer for 20 years and I got tired of her shit.
Right.
So I lean much more onto the H2O side of Laurie. So I'll just say that's where my point's going for this one. There's elements to both the performance from both of them. There's things that I really like about it, but I much prefer the H2O version of what they were going for with Laurie.
Yeah, you know what, Cody? I think I'm going to agree with you on this one, which may surprise some of your viewers who watch me and know my thoughts on H2O. But if we're specifically talking about Laurie, which is what we're specifically talking about here, then I think I would agree. I think you know, it's a catch-22 because, again, you know, as I said during the story portion of the show, I do like the fact that Halloween 2 was removed because I think it adds an interesting dynamic. It's never been done before. But it adds another issue. Well, it not necessarily. I think they went too far.
Yeah.
I think they did in 18 made Sarah Connor made see, there it is, made Laurie like Sarah Connor, and that is interesting. That is interesting. But as I said during the story portion, I think if she was more like how she was at the beginning of Ends, where she's experienced shit, she's been through shit. Grandma has a past, but her arc is to become stronger. Her arc is to become, you know, not literally Sarah Connor, but to become badass. That's part of sort of, you know, she's a bit weaker. She's afraid of Myers. She's still in fear. And I know she was in 18, that's why she was that way. But I think to see her become more confident and powerful and to sort of shed the you know, the jacket of fear and to stand up to Michael, to see that, I think would have been really cool. And then people would have drawn the parallels with H2O, fine, but it would have been, you know, a similar arc, but it would have been an arc over 3 movies rather than 1.
Yes.
And I think that would have been interesting. Now, again, I do like the idea when Hawkins, and I know we're talking, you know, we're not talking about kills, but it's part of the whole thing with her as a character. I do like when Hawkins says in Kills, Laurie, it was never about you. It wasn't about you. I do like that because that's something you know, it's been a part of her identity for 40 years. What does that mean when she figures out that this is not, that he was never after her? What does this mean? I mean, what is that? Like, it's part of her identity. Now who is she? If she's not the Michael Myers chick, who is she? Like, I do like all of that. I think that was smart. But who she is immediately in H2O, batten down the hatches, all this kind of stuff. Why? He's incarcerated, but one day he's going to come out, but he's incarcerated. It doesn't, if he was out on parole and has been out on parole and you're just waiting for, you don't know where he is. He could be around. He's out on parole. He was out on parole in 1986 and he's been out on parole since 1986. And I don't know what the hell's going on, or maybe not 86. That would not have been a long enough, you know, sentence, but maybe he got out on parole in 2008 or something like that. I mean, you know, maybe it was 30 years and it's like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. And then she moves away to this thing and she builds this thing. I know he's coming. Okay. But he's been incarcerated for 40 years. And so to your point, it feels a little too sensational. You know, it doesn't take me out of it completely, because Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, you know, you have to give credit where it's due. She's, you know, a great actress. She knows the character so well. So I buy into it. You know, I'm asked to buy into it. So I say, okay, but it does do itself a disservice, especially when you don't have Halloween 2 as canon.
Yes.
When it comes to Laurie Strode in H2O, I'm not a big fan of the movie overall, but I do think it is a more realistic, although ironically, you would expect her to be more like the 18 Laurie in H2O, having gone through everything she went through in both movies, and her more like the H2O character in 18. But anyway, I do like her character in H2O, and I do think that it is a nice arc in one movie to show that she can become stronger and to face her demons. And everybody loves that. My God, everybody loves that moment.
Oh, yeah. Locks the
and
gate and busts it, and then just that shot of her with the axe. It's awesome.
great. It's great. No, it is. It's great. Like that part of H2O, I do concede, and I say that it is a great moment. It's a nice moment. I'm not a fan of the whole seeing his eyes and the whole touching of the fingers and the I'm just like, what? And then we're asked to believe it's an ambulance driver, and I'm like, what's going on? But
resurrection doesn't count, Dave.
I know.
Never happened.
Never happened. I know.
We all dreamed it.
But it's I'm not a fan. I do like the fact that she chops off his head. I'm not a fan again of the head rolling and seeing his eye. It's the whole it may not be. It's details. And there may be some people watching the show right now that go, Dave, you're being a little too nitpicky. No, this is part of the character. This is why there is a mystique around Michael Myers, the ambiguity, the enigma, the unknown, that mystery, that aura. It's so important to preserving that. And that's why so many of us, when we do see a head roll and you see his eyes, we're like, okay. That's why we get like that, because it feels like you're removing a bit of the mystique away from the character. And so there's all that part that I'm like, which I guess goes to story. Excuse me. I'm going around thing here. But I do, you can edit this out, but I do, I do like Laurie's arc. And I do think it is more believable. And the relationship with her son and how that's, everything you've said. I mean, I do agree. I think it is more believable. It's more properly motivated in H2O.
All right, there we go. Moving on to round 4, we're going to talk about the kills, which for a lot of people is the point. That is the reason that we are there. So this is a big one. And this one is interesting because I don't really, it's not to me like a Michael or a Laurie discussion that we just had where there's like this clear difference in quality. It's just a difference in era where H2O comes out in the Scream era. We weren't necessarily in, we had moved out of the 80s where we were going for the Tom Savini stuff, and we hadn't got to the torture porn stuff in 2000 yet. And so you have this very subtle, kind of subdued take on the kills in H2O. You get some gruesome shots, like you got the one where he's got the chick hung up into the light. You got their leg busted in the dumbwaiter.
The skate to the face.
Skate to the face is a good one. You got the callback to Halloween 2 where he sticks the knife in the back of Laurie's boyfriend and sticks him up and he's doing the shake. You don't really get to see it happen, but after the infamous CGI mask, you get the corkscrew in the one kid.
Oh yes.
And so I think that H2O it's got solid kills. There's some good gags. There's some good gags. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. I think the best one of the movie for me is the chick in the dumbwaiter. Not only is it just a good sequence where how do I escape him? He's down here, he's up here, she's got her leg broken. Where do I go? And then seeing the aftermath. So I think it's got solid kills. I think it's just a product of its time. It's in that Scream era, and Scream has never been a franchise that has been like aside from a few specifics, has never been overly graphic. It's a lot of stabs and
even the recent Screams 5 and 6. It's going to be the bloody. I'm like, well, it's bloodier for a Scream movie, I guess, but it's still pretty kind of normal. You know what I mean? So I agree with you.
Yeah. And then so you contrast that with the kills in 2018, which are very much, again, a product of its time. We've gone through 10 plus years of Saw movies and Hostel movies and Wrong Turn movies. And so now Michael's going to come back. If he's going to come stake his, claim and, plant his flag in this era of horror, got to dial up the violence a bit. And I think they did a really good job with that. I think that there's a lot of gruesome effects. I think that the special effects and the latex and the corn syrup and all that looks really good. The big thing that people get really into debate with 2018, I don't know how you feel on this, is that a lot of the kills in 2018 are off-screen kills. You just see the aftermath. The camera pans past a body or, whatever it may be. So I don't know what your take is on, how you like off-screen kills versus seeing the act.
Well, I mean, again, for those of you that do watch me on my channel and know my thoughts on horror, I love a good slasher like anybody. And I'm all for, a gory movie or, oh, wow, that was awesome, whatever. But at the end of the day, my preference has always been more of that theater of the mind, the psychological and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when I was watching Halloween 18 in the movie theater at the premiere, and I remember when it got to the point where it was the kill in the at the gas station when the guy's like jaw was like, on the other side of the world. And then there was that scene where the cop, I think, comes upon it's Hawkins comes upon the bus crash, the prison guard, right? I think that was him, where his like neck was like all the way back. And his like Adam's apple was like protruding from his, whatever. And I remember it was so eerie. And what I really love about the kills for the most part, because you're right, for the most part, they're off screen. And I like a good kill that's on screen as well. But they did such a great job with the off-screen kills in 18 because I found them so eerie. Because I was thinking to myself, imagine coming upon this kind of kill, and you think to yourself, holy shit, like, what am I dealing with here that this is the end result of whatever confrontation happened here, right? Like, what is like, how is this the end result? Like, I mean, what the hell are we dealing with? Where the neck is back, like, what is going on? Same with Dave, I think, the boyfriend's name is, where he's like pinned to the wall,
with his arm behind him and shit.
Yeah, exactly. You've got Cameron impaled on the, on the fence post. It's just, and the guy at the gas station with his jaw. I just remember feeling it was so well done. They were all off screen, but it was so well done. It was so eerie. And maybe it was a combination of the fact that that scene with the bus and Hawkins, as he's got his gun out, he's approaching, the cop. I don't think there was any music, or maybe there was, but maybe it was just, the elements. You can hear like the crickets in the distance and the hum of his car off in the corner or whatever. And he's just coming up, and it's just like, and his light shines on. It's like, what the like, imagine, Cody, imagine being out there and actually coming across that. It looks, it's so almost surreal. It doesn't even look like it would be possible. It doesn't even look like that this is how somebody would die. It looks supernatural in and of itself. It almost looks like how you look when you're possessed in those possessed movies, and you're, it's like, what is going on? What the hell happened here? That's the end result.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really loved about the off-screen kills, and the kills for the most part in Halloween 18. And so I agree with you with the kills in H20. I think they're perfectly fine. They're serviceable. They're late 90s gags, and they work great. But for me, I think I'm going to give the edge to 18, just because I was pleasantly surprised that they actually did play more into that theater of the mind that I really like, because it was one of the things I was thinking when I sat down to watch the movie. Like, I wonder how gory this is going to be, because it's 2018. We got to have the gore. And they did, but it was tastefully done. And some of those kills, I'm just like, oh, fuck, that would be eerie. Like, I'm driving down the road, I see an accident, I get out, and I just see this cop that's lying there with his head back. I'd be like, I don't want to fucking deal with whoever did this. Like, I am out of here. Because I'm 5'8", like 155 pounds. My whole torso would be broken into, like I'm done. I'm gone. You know what I mean? And so, like I thought it was so well done, so eerie and creepy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that 2018 has a really good mix of both, because I don't mind off-screen kills if it has the effect that you're describing.
Yes.
Sometimes it can feel cheap, where it's just like, I wanted to see that shit, but I didn't really get that feeling because it's plentiful. You get a lot of on-screen kills. You get a lot of violent kills, like when he's just smashing the dude's head in the bathroom and then goes to kill his girlfriend while he's sitting there like just fading out and gets to witness that as the lad. Like something about that's just, it's like an extra layer of fucked up. It's not only painful, but it's like cruel.
Well, it was actually my favorite kill in Halloween Kills, when the guy's getting pincushioned into the back, and his wife is just sitting there bleeding. Of course, she survives. I don't know how, but she's bleeding out watching it happen, and they don't pull focus to it. They don't rack focus, which is great. They just keep him out of focus, like a soft focus, and you just kind of see it. It's so great. Yeah, no, I love that. That stuff can be fucked up too.
No, I'm with you. So I'm definitely giving the point to Halloween 2018 on that one too. You get a lot of gore. I mean, you got a head getting stomped, similar to Halloween 2. You get
that's right.
A lot of knife play, and so it's a bit of it's carnage candy. What I always like to say, you get a lot of carnage candy in that one. So
you do.
It's not a negative reflection on what was done in H2O, but it's a new era.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, moving on to what is the final round, and we're just going to talk about specifically the way that these two films end. So the way that the final confrontation between Laurie and Michael comes to an end. With H2O, you got her smashing the lock, going after him with the axe, confronting him, getting a nice, little late 90s fight scene in there, and they go to wheel him away in the ambulance, and she finally takes charge of it. I'm not going to fucking wait 20 more years and find out that he survived this. I'm just going to end this shit myself. Drives, ends up pinned, chops his fucking head off. And for the sake of argument, resurrection never happened, because that's the way I always when I watch H2O, I'm like, go to hell, that one doesn't happen. Like, we're gonna pretend this is the end. So she takes charge and just ends it. I'm done. Whatever happens to me happens, but I'm done.
Yep.
It's aside from the original film, it's my favorite Halloween movie ending. Right up there with Halloween 4. I think Halloween 4 is damn good too.
Oh,
and same thing. If we're going to talk about 4, 5 never happened.
5 never happened. It's such a great ending.
Yes. I love, just an extension of what I was talking about with Laurie in this movie. I just love that as an end to her arc. For a 3-movie arc, I love the fact that she's like, I'm done. He's going to kill me, or I'm going to kill him. It's fucking ending tonight. Yeah. And I just love that approach. The eyes aside, I love the visual of them having that moment, like brother, sister, like I hate you, but there's still something here. And you feel from her end like there's this genuine thing there of like, I hate that I have to do this, but there's no other way. And then from Michael, you feel very much like this is a play, like grab so I can just, fucking snap your neck before I die between this tree and this van. And she just takes it off, and then you get the John Carpenter score, and I absolutely love the ending to this movie.
Yeah. So again, when we're talking just specifically about the ending of the film and how it was written, I agree with you. I think it's a great ending. And again, some of your viewers who also watch me may find that surprising that I say that. But again, it's because we're diving into the specifics. We're not talking about an overall sort of thing. We're talking very specifically about these things. And so I do think it's a good ending. I think when you think about where she was in Halloween 1 and 2 and now H2O, as you said, and of course we both like her arc, and it's a very powerful moment, those details with the eyes, and I'm not crazy on the kind of thing. Although maybe I would have really liked it better had maybe we had never seen his eyes through the whole movie. And then at that moment, that's when we see them, and we see them.
Interesting idea.
and we see them not fully like, you know, intact, but we see them really damaged and scarred, and it looks like is there an eyeball in there? Is there a pupil in there or something? And for whatever reason, there's just something. She's looking into the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. She's looking into the void, and she just thinks, no. There's no, you know, I gotta do what I gotta do. That would have been interesting, because for me, seeing his eyes, I'm like, I've seen his eyes for 90 minutes. It doesn't do anything for me. But the ending and the sequence of events of her taking charge, doing what needs to be done, taking that axe and chopping his head off, which should have been the end of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because and it was Halloween what Busta Who, but it was because I remember at that time too, because even in all the, I mean, Freddie had been blown up and this and that and all that kind, and Jason had been stabbed and this, but nobody's cut off anybody's head yet. I don't think, anyway. Maybe people have cut off Jason's head and Freddie's head. I mean, I know in Freddie versus Jason is head, but I just mean like at that time, it was like, oh, because it was a thing, like, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, why just cut off his fucking head? Like, you know, all the whatever. Why they just cut Jason's head off? Why are they cutting his? You know, all this, and it's like she did it. Like she did the one thing that like nobody ever does in slasher movies, which is like cut off the head. You know, and so I agree. I do think that despite that, I would have shot it different, and I would have probably, you know, executed it differently on paper. Reading that in a script, in a story, it's like that's a great ending. That's a great ending. That's a great ending. And she stands there, and there's a moment where you see her going,
yep. And you hear the ambulance, the cops are like, you know, it's not going to work out well for her if they carry this on another 20 minutes, but her arc, her struggle is done. Right.
And she's not going to go to jail. It's self-defense. She's going to get off. I mean, you can spin it that way. Something's going to happen, right? I mean, she's not going to go to prison for the rest of her life because she murdered a man. You know, something is going to happen. It was self-defense. I'm sure. I don't know what the laws are in the state of California, but I'm sure she'd be able to get, you know, and so the roll credits, she's going to live happily ever after, and she's going to reconvene with her son. And now that her demons are gone, I agree. I think it's a great ending. I'll let you talk about 18 here, because I know we just talked about H20. So you fire off about 18.
And so now you have 2018, which you have this final confrontation in Laurie's house/bunker. And, you know, Sartain has facilitated this where Michael has now descended upon this, and you have the 3 Strode women there. And, you know, there's things that I like about this third act and this ending. I like the little fake out we get with Karen, I believe is her name, Judy Greer's character, because the whole movie, I'm like, I can't stand this character. The dialogue's terrible. I don't buy her performance. Like,
I know.
Why is this not Daniel Harris? Doesn't make any sense. And then you get
I can have it. Daniel. That's a whole other. I don't think it should have been Daniel Harris. But anyway, that's a whole other show, folks. Good night, everybody.
I wouldn't say that it should have been, but I would have preferred her to Judy Greer. I think that's what So I don't think she was entitled to that character. If that's fair enough. There you go. So
fair enough. I'll let it slide. Go ahead.
That creates problems with the timeline. Anyway, I love the gotcha moment.
Gotcha.
I love the moment where Laurie gets thrown over the balcony and he looks down and she's gone, like the first movie. I love the callback moments.
Nice.
I love when Michael's grabbing at Allison and then you get Laurie in the shadow. Happy Halloween, Michael. Even though that line's a little movie moment, I like the visual of it. And then the 3 women band together, knock his ass down in the basement, and then you find out the whole thing is a trap and the whole thing goes ablaze. I love the visual of him just looking like, you bitches, and the flames are going. I love all of that. My issue is that even if, you know, at the time we didn't know they were making kills and ends. Like, we as movie fans, you know, if this fucking makes as much money as they think it's going to make, they're obviously going to make another one. But the ending feels like this isn't the end.
I know.
And that's the major difference with me, is that, like, you can, even if we never got kills and ends, to this day, we'd be like, they're going to make another one at some point. Like, that's not the ending.
Right.
And that's the big thing that takes kind of the wind out of the sails for me with the third act of this movie, is that they build it for so long leading up to it, of the final confrontation. And it's like, but you knew this was never going to be the final thing. Like you literally wrote the ending to not be a final, so it felt like a bait and switch, and that always bugged me. It had kills and ends worked out perfectly. I could have gotten over that. I have my issues with those films as well. But 2018's big difference for me between H2O is that 2018 doesn't feel definitive in the way that H2O does, and that takes a lot of the impact out for me. I don't know how you feel.
I agree with that. I again, when I was watching it in the theater, I remember when it ended, it felt abrupt. It felt like, oh, there should be like a, some sort of epilogue here. Like I need an extra 10 minutes. And so it did feel abrupt. I like the ending of Halloween 18. I know there are some people that said, well, I don't like it because we've already seen him in fire. And it's like, and that's part of the problem is that it is true that you have already seen the character burned to death. So I understand what people mean when they feel that maybe the fire thing was sort of, it's done already. The problem is that you're asking your audience to now pretend that Halloween 2 doesn't exist, because in this new movie, in this timeline, Halloween 2 never happened. So all those things in Halloween 2, whether it's Ben Tramer getting hit by the cop car, whether it's the hospital, all of it never ever happened. And so technically, from a narrative, from a canonical standpoint, you haven't seen him in fire yet. I mean, you have, but you haven't, but you have, but you haven't, but you have, but you have. And that's sort of the dichotomy there, right? And that's what you struggle with as an audience member. And I can only imagine how it would be from a writing perspective, because I do think the fire, it's great. It's symbolic. It's got, he would not have survived it, unless they figure out a way to do what they did. But I think, I like the idea. I like that whole sequence, actually. I think it's one of the strongest moments in the movie when he puts his hand through the window, she shoots off his fingers. A lot of symbolism there as well. And the whole kind of chase and through the house and the batten down the hatches. And it's like, wow, she's really got this this is like a fortress. And all the things that you said, I agree. I like how he's shot, how he's lit. That's how you want him lit all the time. And I like that he's standing there and he's looking up and the fire and to your point, it's like, you son of a bitch, and they're just standing there watching, whatever. I think maybe it would have been nice to see him burning. But then at the same time, I understand that, yes, they want to leave it open for a sequel, but even if they didn't, you run into that issue but we've seen him burning already at the end of Halloween 2. It's like, yeah, but you haven't at the same time, because this is a new town. And that's the issue when you're choosing your own adventure because of filmmaking incompetence. And yes, as much as we want to say that, oh, this is so wonderful, look, we have all these different timelines. You have these different timelines because of incompetence.
Yes.
And so, as much as the Friday the 13th movies are ridiculous and the Elm Street movies are ridiculous, it's mind-blowing to me that Freddy's Dead is the same timeline as the original Elm Street, but it is.
Never heard of
it. Oh my God, one of the worst movies I've ever. I as much as I'm not a fan of Jason Goes to Hell and how that's canon with the original Friday the 13th, I don't know, but it is. And so the symbolism around him burning and the fire and the supernatural and Halloween and just to see him how cool would it be to see him stand there, and then all of a sudden, they leave, they got to get into the truck, and you just see him continue to stand there, and he's on fire, and he's just standing there. He's not moving. He's just burning. And it's burning, and he's not moving. He's not going like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's
just see a skull and shit. And
yes. Dude, yes. Imagine that. That's burning, and then the flesh is peeling off of him and all that kind of stuff. And Christopher Nelson would have his work cut out from this. But you just kind of see him, and the fact that he's not moving, he's not walking, he's not trying to put himself out. He's just taking it like a fucking man. You know what I mean? He's just taking it. He's taking it. But it would be eerie. Now, maybe some people might be like, no, I would have been like, oh yeah, like he's just.
Me too.
Oh
I
my
would have
God.
walked out on cloud 9, and I would have avoided a lot of controversy in 2018 because I would have given it a higher rating.
Oh my God. And you see him, and there's like this, and you shoot it from many different angles. You get like a master shot of the whole room, and you see him just standing there in the distance, and the flames. It's like what the hell? Why isn't he moving? He's taking it, bitches. He's taking it. He's owning it. And he's just, and to your point, you see like this, a skull begin to appear. And then the fucking skull is on flames. I mean, maybe that might be a little too Ghost Rider. I don't know, but it still would have looked amazing. And the suit is burning, and then right down to the bones. And he just kind of, I don't know if you want to go this far, but falls to the ground. At some point, he's going to fall to the ground.
As soon as you start to see the skull, where it's like clearly he's just going to sit here till he's dead. You fade to the pumpkin.
Oh, a little bit of Halloween 2 in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like something like that, I think would have. But again, they didn't want to do that because they were like, hey, this could make a lot of money. It did. It became the highest grossing slasher movie in motion picture history. $255 million worldwide. Insane. And so I get why they didn't want to do that. But I agree with you. I think as far as endings go, H2O is the better ending. It is more solidified. It feels more full circle. It feels more complete. 18 feels too much like a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I totally agree. So both of our points are going to H2O. This leaves us in an interesting spot, Dave. I'm only 2 episodes in, but we actually have a tie now because if I tally up the score, that gives 5 votes to H2O and 5 votes to 2018.
Well, maybe we should break the tie and talk about the music.
I was sitting here when I was listening to you. I was like, if he says H2O, I got to think of a tiebreaker. And I think as much as the score would be awesome, I think that would make it too much of a landslide victory because there's pretty much no score in H2O. So this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, there is. It's the Scream score.
Yeah, there you go. This is what I'm going to do. I think this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to let you be the tiebreaker because God knows I don't want us to, have another, like I choose one and you choose the other. Now we got to so this is what I think is going to be interesting.
All right.
I want you to pick which timeline you would prefer if you could only have one. If you were going to the desert island question, you can either take the original in 2018 or you can take the original Halloween 2 and H2O. And I know you have your extreme issues with how those movies fit together from H2 to H2O. So I think it's actually going to be a little more difficult than if we talk the score.
This is really difficult because I wouldn't take either of them. I
would take one and then you'd leave the leftovers.
No, I've said this on my own channel. My favorite timeline is not even really a timeline because people like to also include 5 and 6, but I like to call it the Loomis trilogy, which is 1, 2, and 4.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing when I ranked the timelines. Yeah, I
think 4 is a tremendous ending when you don't go to 5 because it brings it full circle. Evil wins. The symbolism of it, girl, the clown costume, or young girl, I should say, the clown costume, the scissors, the breed. I mean, Loomis was going to fire his revolver into her. He was going to kill her. I mean, that's how crazy he was. And so that's like, I'm like, oh, that's great. But if that's not an option, I have to figure out if my choices are Halloween and Halloween 18 or Halloween 2 and H2O. Oh man, Cody. Me. You know what? I think just for the pure fact that I think they got the mask and so much right about Michael Myers in 18, I'm going to go with 18.
Okay. Well, my votes count as 2 then. H2O, everybody. No, that's totally cool. Totally cool. So
for me, 1 and 2, but then when we get to H2O, I'm going to go, yay, 1, yay, 2. But for me, I'm like, yay, 1, 18. Okay, look at that Myers, man. Fuck that, And so it's the Myers that just puts it over the edge for me.
I hear you. Okay, cool. Yeah, this was fun, man. This was an interesting one because I was surprised. I didn't know how much we would agree or disagree. Like I said, I tried to pick a topic in 2 movies where it wasn't going to be obvious. One of us was just going to be fanboying out for one of them. And story, we disagreed. And that was really a story, and that's it. The rest of them we agreed. We agreed, but it was for different movies. We gave our accolades to both.
Yeah.
So all right. So Halloween 2018, buy a razor.
Buy a razor
on this movie, Brawl.
There's going to be a lot of people going, Lola, never have this guy on ever again.
I'm gonna have to sit and actually think about like maybe a more official way to tie break, but I thought that'd be a more interesting one than score, because it's like, okay, Halloween 2018 wins. Next.
That's true. Yeah. No, look, I totally agree that the ending in H2O is better, and Laurie, her arc and everything, I absolutely agree. But for me, I think, again, there's just a lot of things: the fall atmosphere, Michael Myers, James Jude Courtney, the mask, the score, all those things that are great in 18, just for me makes me go, yeah, I gotta go 18, just because I would rather watch 18 for those reasons than watch H2O. The environment and the setting and Myers and the mask and how you utilize Myers is so integral and important to Halloween that you can have a great ending and a great Laurie, but if you miss on most everything else, it can really take you down. For me, it can really take you down. And so that's why I got to go 18. I agree that the ending in H2O, I think, is a better, more solidified ending. But H2O, I think 18 does so much better. It does a lot. Let me try this. 18 does more better in what H2O doesn't get right. And so I got to give it 18.
Totally get it. I respect that, man. All right. So everybody, Halloween 2018 is walking away victorious with this one. So what I want you guys to do in the comment section is let me know in the comments now, what is the next movie Brawl that you want to see? I was thinking maybe doing another one in December. Maybe like Black Christmas versus Silent Night, Deadly Night, although for me that would be a landslide victory. So let me know something.
I was just going to say, that's not going to be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So let me know some ideas down below, guys. Maybe even some suggestions for some guests that would pertain to all of those. So Dave, huge thanks for you joining. This was a blast. This was a really fun one. If you have anything already planned, let everybody know. This will come out in about a week. So if you have content already planned out, what can they look forward to checking out on your channel? And his link will be in the video description below, guys.
Amazing. Thank you, Cody. It was an honor to be on. Thank you for inviting me on. I always love coming on the channel and chatting with you. And not that I've been on a lot, but I just mean when I have been on, I've enjoyed it. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's great to shoot the shit, talk Halloween, and see what everybody's gonna say. For me, obviously my channel is Dave McCrae, and I don't have anything major coming up, although I will say that I just finished It's Me Billy Chapter 2, which is on my channel, which is the sequel, the follow-up to the Black Christmas fan and tribute film I did a couple years ago called It's Me Billy. It's it's basically one movie divided into two parts. Both films are direct sequels to the original Black Christmas from 1974. So if you are a big fan of Black Christmas, the original from 74, and you want to see what happens next, go to my channel and check out It's Me Billy and It's Me Billy Chapter 2. I think you will really enjoy them. So, but in terms of, that's really what's been taking up my time a lot over the last little while. Yeah. So I don't have anything specific in the way of like videos and content, but I'm always doing live shows and hanging out and talking horror and Halloween. So come on over and check it out.
There you go. Yeah, guys, I've done a review for both chapters of It's Me Billy. If you're a Black Christmas fan, it's a very cool Elseworld continuation of what happened. So if you're hungry for more Billy, if you want to know a version of what could have happened after that, please check that out. And I'll put a link to both of those down in the video description as well.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, that does it for episode 2 of Movie Brawl, everybody. If you enjoyed that, let me know some comments down below on what movies you want to see or what guests you want to see in further episodes, and even comment on what you thought about the categories and the eventual victor of this episode of Movie Brawl. And if you enjoyed it, click up here for the first episode and down here for some 2024 new release reviews. And as always, guys, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.